It's not with gay marriage. It's with why does anybody get an advantage over anybody else because they have?
That you have a PhD? Yes. Well, then why did Canada decide that you needed more education? Can you tell us about that?
Celebrities are aiming at woke culture, and they're not holding back. They're calling out the hypocrisy and making it hilarious with sharp words and bold moves. Get ready for a wild ride as these stars shut down woke ideology with style. Here are a few unforgettable moments when celebrities stood up and called out woke culture Malzo 1. During an appearance on The View, Kurt Russell sparked debate when he cast doubt on gun control's role in stopping terrorists. Later, he clarified that the moment felt staged, like a scripted performance rather than a genuine discussion. Caught off guard, he sensed a deliberate attempt to corner him with a specific agenda. Describing the exchange as more of a setup than an open dialogue, he admitted he felt ambushed. In hindsight, he believed the conversation wasn't entirely fair, as it leaned more toward pushing a narrative than fostering debate. Not only this, in another moment of the show, Russell also defended the Second Amendment, emphasizing the Founding Fathers' intent and the historical tensions between governments and citizens. Citing the Civil War, he argued that the right to bear arms safeguards against government overreach. His firm stance on self-defense and personal freedoms challenged modern gun control debates, particularly those influenced by shifting cultural narratives. Unapologetic in his views, he questioned whether today's discussions truly address public safety or reflect political and ideological trends. Next up, Ricky Gervais often addresses comedians' critique when labelled as not funny. Even if he agrees with the sentiment, Gervais makes it a point to defend the comedian by reminding critics, "You can't say that. You have to say you didn't find them funny." He emphasizes that humor is deeply subjective. What makes one person laugh may leave another unmoved. He argues that the uniqueness of individual taste in comedy means that dismissing a comedian outright is unfair. Gervais also takes issue with people declaring a joke as universally offensive. Instead, he believes that criticism should be framed personally, saying, "I found it offensive," rather than making broad judgments. To him, labeling a joke as offensive assumes a shared moral standard, ignoring personal perspectives. I found it amusing that Jordan Peterson doesn't hold back, even when it comes to Canada's government and its embrace of woke culture. He pushed back after authorities questioned his right to practice as a psychologist due to his outspoken views. He revealed that a full interview with Joe Rogan, where he challenged climate and economic models predicting distant futures, was cited as evidence against him. To Peterson, this wasn't about his qualifications, but a political move to silence dissent fueled by anonymous complaints. During his testimony, Peterson highlighted the irony of his so-called re-education. Despite regulatory bodies attempting to correct his views, nothing had changed. His response was unwavering, showing his refusal to conform just to appease authorities. Peterson's stance was more than personal. It became a broader warning about the dangers of censorship. He argued that when questioning mainstream ideas leads to professional punishment, society risks slipping into authoritarian control. In a recent episode of the Joe Rogan Experience, the conversation took a sharp turn toward the growing influence of woke culture, which Rogan sees as distorting common sense. He explored how this mindset has taken hold in universities and major cities like Los Angeles and New York, creating isolated bubbles where even everyday language sparks outrage. Rogan pointed out how something as simple as calling someone your wife instead of partner can trigger unnecessary backlash. In these circles, traditional terms, once used without a second thought, are suddenly controversial. He questioned why minor details in casual conversations have become ideological battlegrounds. For Rogan, this level of hypersensitivity is irrational, turning everyday interactions into tense encounters. He didn't hold back, calling the entire situation crazy and wondering how society reached a point where people get worked up over things that should be harmless and natural. The show didn't end there. Comedy thrives on pushing boundaries, and Dave Chappelle is a master of the craft. While some view his material as provocative, others consider it an honest exploration of social tensions. One example is his take on the Jussie Smollett case, where he tackled how the gay community accused black people of homophobia for not rallying behind Smollett's claims. Chappelle pointed out that many in the black community remained skeptical, sensing something wasn't right with the story. He painted a hilarious picture of a seasoned police officer questioning Smollett, baffled by the bizarre details. An alleged attack in freezing temperatures during a late-night subway run. The situation's absurdity became the punchline as Chappelle used humor to highlight how different communities navigate support and suspicion. His comedic lens didn't just make people laugh, it forced them to reflect on how narratives are shaped and who gets to control them. In this hilarious but humiliating moment, Ricky Gervais opened his 2020 Golden Globes monologue by mocking the predictability of celebrity speeches. He urged winners to skip the political grandstanding, arguing that many stars live in a bubble and have no business lecturing the public. With sharp wit, he joked that some had spent less time in school than Greta Thunberg, suggesting they accept their awards, thank their agents and God, and move on. Throughout his speech, Gervais relentlessly exposed Hollywood's hypocrisy. He pointed out how stars preach about climate change and social justice while indulging in extravagant lifestyles. He pushed boundaries with references to controversial films like Surviving R. Kelly, Leaving Neverland, and Two Popes, drawing laughter and gasps. His boldest moment came when he slammed celebrities for working with morally questionable corporations, quipping, "If ISIS started a streaming service, you'd call your agent." The line went viral, perfectly capturing his critique of Hollywood's double standards. In the next clip, Russell, influenced by libertarian ideals, questions the legal privileges tied to marriage, but doesn't oppose same-sex unions. Rather than focusing on who can marry, he challenges the notion that married couples should receive special treatment. In his view, fairness means eliminating distinctions based on relationship status, ensuring no one gains extra rights simply by marriage. For him, true equality isn't about labels, but about creating a level playing field where personal relationships don't dictate legal benefits or social advantages, pushing back against long-standing assumptions about marriage and rights. In another tense moment, for speaking against woke ideology, Joe Rogan didn't hold back. He also raised concerns about the rise of wokeness in schools, questioning whether teachers should introduce personal political views into the classroom. He stressed that education should focus on knowledge, not ideological conditioning. Comparing it to religion, he noted that while parents naturally pass down personal beliefs, schools should remain neutral spaces dedicated to learning. Rogan argued that classrooms should prioritize core subjects like math and history, rather than becoming platforms for social or political agendas. While he acknowledged that many teachers do incredible work and genuinely inspire students, he warned against blurring the line between education and activism. Schools, he insisted, must strike a balance, ensuring students gain essential life skills without being influenced by ideological narratives. His key point was clear. The classroom should be a place for learning and critical thinking, not a battleground for pushing specific viewpoints onto young, impressionable minds. The celebrity's expression against woke ideology didn't stop there. Denzel Washington took the stage to address the overwhelming impact of information on society. He voiced concern about the rise of fake news and media prioritizing opinions over facts. Denzel urged the audience to rethink their relationship with technology, posing a thought-provoking question. Are you using your device, or is your device using you? He warned that the constant bombardment of media influences how people think and process information, often distorting their sense of reality. Denzel encouraged everyone to pause and consider how the media overload shapes their views of truth, highlighting how it can blur the lines between fact and fiction. His message was a call to action, urging people to become more mindful of the media they consume and how it affects their perceptions of the world. It was a timely reminder to take control of one's relationship with technology. In this heated moment, Morgan Freeman took a stand against the typical focus on race in discussions of wealth and success. he argued that race should not dictate financial opportunities or personal achievements. Freeman emphasized the value of determination and mindset, pointing to both his journey and the reporters as examples of how success is shaped by perseverance, not solely by racial identity. While acknowledging that race remains an important issue, Freeman voiced frustration with how often it dominates conversations, advising people to shift their focus toward progress and solutions. He encouraged a mindset that looks beyond racial divides, urging society to concentrate on what can be done to move forward rather than continuously dwelling on the past. Freeman's words challenged the narrative, calling for a more constructive approach to addressing inequality. In the last segment, in a heated exchange, Ben Shapiro delivered a sharp rebuttal to a woke college student questioning his stance on medical transitioning for children. The student accused Shapiro of calling puberty blockers child abuse, to which he stood firm, arguing that children are too young to consent to irreversible procedures. The student quickly shifted gears, bringing up circumcision, asking if Shapiro saw it as a violation of bodily autonomy. Shapiro didn't back down. He calmly explained that circumcision, a common practice, wasn't comparable to transitioning procedures, emphasizing the difference in biological and cultural context. With a wry smile, Shapiro pointed out that millions of men have been circumcised without significant harm, contrasting that with the extreme nature of giving a child hormone treatments. The conversation grew more intense as he dismissed the comparison, labeling it absurd. The back and forth highlighted a clash of values on bodily autonomy and medical ethics. These celebrities and media persons contend that these developments distort reality for political benefit rather than mark progress. Do you see it differently, or do you agree with his perspective? Tell us in the comments. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to support further conversations like this.